Good evening to all. My name is Konstantinos Eleftheriadis. I am a partner in Deloitte and leading the energy practice of our firm in Greece. I would like to start by thanking AmSam for the invitation to be here today and having this panel where we are going to focus on increasing energy prices and how to address them. It is an honor to have together with me Mr. Nikos Keramidas from Mytilineos. Nikos is the Director of European and International Affairs in Mytilineos Group. Nico, καλησπέρα.
Good afternoon. Thanks, everyone, and much appreciated the invitation. Thanks to the American Hellenic Chamber of Commerce and the organizers. Thanks a lot.
Nikos brings significant experience in energy, having done a lot of things in the past, not only in Greece, but also at the international energy market. So I think it's going to be an informative discussion. So, Nikos, let me start directly with the first question, which is going to be regarding gas prices. It's a hot topic, so let's start with that. I read the other days, and let me just read the quote exactly. It was the global head of commodities in Citigroup saying that Europe will have to wait until later this decade before seeing any relief from high natural gas prices. It will be somewhere between 2025 and 2027 when prices in Europe are coming back to the levels of 2021. Now, is this true? What do you foresee? Given your experience, when do you see us coming back to something like normal prices in terms of gas?
Well, Konstantinos, thanks for the question. I'm not a big fan of forecasting, particularly about prices and about, it's quite difficult and sometimes risky. But when the underlying fundamentals are there, so I'm talking about supply and demand, then it's hard to question and be extremely optimistic about how things are going to play out. So the reality is that we need significant volumes of competitively priced gas. I heard one of the panelists earlier mention that this isn't a question of volumes, but access to energy. Regardless what the problem is and how we identify it, the important part is that there isn't enough gas flowing and towards Europe, and so the prices remain high. Demand is high. And right now we're witnessing lower demand in China, but as soon as their economy bounces back, which is probably going to happen after the lockdowns, we're going to see even higher global demand. So that said, the only way to solve a problem like that is basically, have more volumes of gas flowing. And this is going to come from, in these particular circumstances, this is probably going to come from diversification and faster diversification and multiple sourcing of energy. What you mentioned about normal prices is extremely interesting, actually, brings us right to the heart of the problem, the heart of the issue, because the issue is competitiveness of the European industry, I guess. And through that, I can only say that normal prices for the industry are globally competitive prices. If we don't have those, then unfortunately, we're going to continue witnessing the demise of the European industry. Right now, it's taking place in a very, very dramatic way. So it is important to ensure as fast as possible globally competitive prices for the survival and the safeguarding our industry. Let me put it this way: at least, definitely the industry that's exposed to global competition as price takers.
So, Nico, Given that gas prices are one of the main drivers regarding energy prices, so I expect that we are not going to see low or the energy price that we used to have some years ago in the near future, correct? So, what are the companies doing? This is affecting its competitiveness, the business plans, the daily operation. It affects all of these things. How can you deal with all of that? And especially in a business like the one that you are dealing with that has to do with the metal industry, which is very, very energy intensive.
That's right in the heart of the matter. Strikes right in the heart of the matter, Konstantina. Because, in all honesty, what we're witnessing is shutdowns and curtailments being announced every single day in Europe. Definitely for primary aluminum smelters and zinc smelters and refineries. Some refineries, but mainly alumina refineries and not oil refineries, definitely. But also fertilizer industries that are extremely exposed to gas prices. The defense mechanism against those would have been hedging, let's say. Hedging is often proposed or suggested as the silver bullet. And truth is, in the conditions that we're witnessing right now, hedging forward pricing, purchasing at forward prices is actually impossible. So anything that right now isn't hedged in terms of industrial production cannot stay afloat. So, and unfortunately, according to some projections by Wood Mackenzie earlier this week, we may expect at least another, give or take, 600,000 tons of primary aluminum to go out of business in Europe within the coming months. Bear in mind, Europe's current primary aluminum production is down to levels that we haven't seen since the 70s. When global demand for aluminum was roughly 10 million tons, and right now it's closer to 70 million tons. So that kind of sums up the disastrous impact of these energy prices. And also, to some extent, points to the necessity for targeted and tailor-made solutions, because solutions that have been proposed or tabled with minimal impact on prices that could alleviate part of the issue would definitely not cut it for the industry. It wouldn't solve the major problem that we're faced with. So it's really crucial to address it. And if I may just say one thing here, I don't think Europe has the luxury to forego its strategic autonomy in raw materials and metals. And we're going to need a hell of a lot more if we are going to stay put in our transition to a net zero economy by 2050. We're going to need many, many more metals to get us there for all the enabling technologies and equipment. So aside, let's say, from the tragic impact on jobs, the GDP, we're talking about tens of thousands of jobs that are lost. We will be repeating the same mistake that led us into this current situation in the first place. We will be making ourselves more dependent on imports. And those imports are coming primarily from the Asian market, China mostly. So it's extremely important that we grasp that part of the debate and understand it and realize that it's not a luxury we can afford right now.
So it is not only profitability, it's also an issue of competitiveness. It's a huge issue for all European entities. And I saw the other day that Mytilineos was one of the few Greek entities that signed a letter that Eurometaux sent to the European Commission suggesting some measures regarding energy cuts and cutting prices and some more other measures and suggestions. Can you please describe and share some more details on this initiative?
Yeah, absolutely. So Eurometaux is the Non-Ferrous Metals Association of Europe. I'm actually the chairman of the Energy and Climate Change Committee of Eurometaux, and It's not the first time we address the Commission. We've done it back in January and in June. And this time we opted for a letter signed by CEOs, given the fact that we wanted to stress, let's say, the urgency of the matter and the criticality, and make sure that all the policymakers grasp the dire situation we're in, and the fact that there isn't a moment to lose. So in this letter, aside from stressing, the current predicament, we also flag the massively detrimental impact that this switch has. So the switch to imports rather than domestic production on the climate targets as well of the European Union. So basically, through replacing European, let's say, aluminium production with imports from China, the net impact is an addition of 10 to 20 million tons of CO2 annually. So that is something that can definitely not be considered as aligned with our strategy. We cannot just NIMBY our way out of this. This is not a situation where we could just say that Europe has reduced its emissions and we're happy with it. The demand is still there. It's being met by production, which is far, far more carbon intensive. And this is something that has to be flagged. And aside from that, as I said, I mean, the demand for aluminium by 2050, according to a report prepared by KU Leuven back in April, will more than double. So it makes zero sense for Europe to allow itself to be deprived of its metals production. So in the letter, we came forward with some concrete proposals, which have to do with, some interventions in terms of caps and things like that, mainly swiftly improving the temporary emergency state aid framework, the crisis framework that the European Commission has come forward with, making sure that we get full compensation for indirect emission costs across Europe, the creation of an emergency EU fund that would support the electro-intensive industry in particular, and interruptibility schemes that could also take stock of the potential of the electro-intensive industry to provide some backing, let's say, to the TSOs and the electricity system in general. But our main proposal has to do with PPAs. And maybe I don't know if we'll get a chance later on, but I would like to elaborate a little bit on that.
So, Nico, although you say that it has happened before, I think that I do not recall something similar happening in the past. I don't know if we have passed the point where companies across borders they are cooperating in terms of common good and in order to fight for the survival. Is this where we stand at the moment?
Konstantinos, you're right. Mostly in the past, what we've been witnessing is voicing concerns through associations and things like that. This is CEOs of the biggest metals industries in Europe joining hands and joining voices to sound the alarm. So let me frame it. This is by far the worst year ever for the European metals industry. This is something that we have never seen before. And from the looks of it, it's going to get worse before it gets better. So now is the time to act. And decisions have to be made that tackle this particular problem. I understand that everybody's lining up, and that's absolutely imperative, particularly for governments to safeguard the resilience of the public. Obviously, this is not a competition. This is not a competition who gets what and whether or not we're going to support our industry or the households and things like that. This is Unfortunately, this is not the case here. It would have been simpler if it were. Right now, everybody requires support to get through to weather the storm. But it is important not to forget that if the industry goes down, the repercussions for the society as well, and economies, national economies, is going to be massive. And so the chain effect, the spiral effect, particularly considering the value chains upstream and downstream, is going to be massively detrimental, let alone the direct and indirect jobs impact. So this is exactly why, as you rightly pointed out, what we're witnessing now is a shift from, your typical association-based nagging, if I may use that word, into a genuine cry for help and raising the alarm by the industries themselves.
I think this was loud and clear. But what about the measures that have been suggested by the EU? So there are some measures already suggested. They are currently being discussed regarding putting a floor on consumption, putting a floor on gas prices. Are these measures on the same direction, similar to the one that you have described right now? Do you think that they're going to help? And what about the heavy industry, the metal industry and all the heavy industries?
Well, this is really timely what you're saying, because about an hour ago, the council concluded the meeting, the energy ministers, and we have some white smoke coming out of that, and maybe some measures that we should expect to be proposed, concrete measures, let's say, to be proposed by mid-September, as they say. Now, we are extremely concerned about measures that are being put to the table as silver bullets and as the right answer, like for instance, price caps. People just throw out the case of price caps, and then the devil's in the details. When you realize how to implement a price cap, say if we were to implement a price cap on gas, as the council mandated Europe to look into, and I know that the Greeks have submitted it, or the Greek government has submitted a proposal on that. It's extremely imperative to make sure that we do not compromise security of supply, because this is a global market. Let's not forget about that. And there is heavy and fierce competition. If you set the price at a low level, then you're going to deal with shortage. It's not going to come to you. You're not going to buy it. It's as simple as that. Gas is out for grabs right now, and what we're going to witness is a situation where setting this price cap, or even the alternative indexing that's being discussed, let's say people threw the idea on the table, let's just ditch the TTF and index gas contracts at Henry Hub. That will mean that you buy gas at Henry Hub plus a premium. That's the simple answer, because this is a global market, and just switching the name is not going to change the fundamentals, the underlying fundamentals. So capping the price has to be done really carefully. In any event, the issue in inframarginal caps in the electricity market that's also being discussed could have some redistributional effect. We're seeing it operating in Greece, and chapeau to the Greek government, let's say, for interventions that have been proposed way before any European officials considered them. They seem to be improved in the latest proposals by the Commission, but the fundamentals are accepted, let's say. But again, I mean, this inframarginal cap, which is reshuffling of some money that apparently people think as major or immense windfall profits, is only going to get us so far. Let me give you an example. I'm not going to use figures that will disclose any confidential information, but using the energy prices and costs report of Europe, the average smelter power cost, let me put it this way, was in 2019, give or take 40 euros per megawatt hour. This, under current circumstances, is closer to 400 or 500 if you go out to the forward markets and purchase electricity. So this difference, you have to multiply that by 3 or 4 million megawatt hours a year. So the delta that's produced from this spike in energy prices is so big that it's going to take, it's going to be an all hands on deck exercise. One solution like the ones proposed by Europe is not going to solve it. We need alternative proposals as well. And again, for the industry and for households as well, it's imperative not to further compromise security of supply. I will not get tired of saying that this is extremely imperative. We cannot allow further shutdown of industry. Actually, you need to revive the one that has shut down already. If we are to move forward as a European economy.
Great, Nico. Thank you so much. Last question, and please let's wrap it up in 30 seconds or a minute or so because we are running a bit late. You are mentioning a lot in the letter that has been prepared by Eurometaux regarding PPAs, regarding renewable energy. So is this an accelerator? Please, a quick answer in less than a minute if you can.
It can be an accelerator. Thanks for asking this. Too bad we don't have a lot of time, but the PPAs for electro-intensive industries are a specific thing. Greece has notified to the Commission a scheme called the Green Pool, which Eurometaux suggests that it could even be implemented on an EU scale, which is leveraging the financial capabilities of electro-intensive industries through long-term PPAs, RES PPAs, for not just safeguarding their survival, but also aggressively deploying massive volumes of renewables, which is probably the only way to get through this in the first place. So I will just say that the time for pondering and long deliberation is over. This is on the Commission's table since almost a year ago. I understand some sort of an official pre-notification took place a bit before the summer, maybe, but this is the time for swift action. So enabling schemes such as the Green Pool and tax incentives like the ones we propose in the letter to the European Commission have to be implemented now. We don't have a moment to lose. And by the way, let me close by just saying that a couple of minutes ago, I only saw that Bloomberg NEF published a graph on how corporate PPAs are going. Under current circumstances, the corporate PPA market is slumping precisely because we don't have legal certainty and regulatory certainty. And at the same time, we lack the enabling conditions. Plus, of course, the uncertainty caused by the war and all that. So we need to accelerate the implementation of those solutions. Otherwise, it might be really too late. And in the words of Paul Voss, that's our Director General of European Aluminium, if we don't act now, there might not be a lot to save.
Thank you so much, Nico. I think everything that you have said is really, really helpful. The message is loud and clear. There are many things to take place in order to revive these companies and keep the European entities at a competitive level in order to make it even after the war and even after 2022. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Konstantinos. Thanks to everyone.